y'all. Hey, and welcome to John Conclusions with me, Christina B. Happy Monday and happy Valentine's Day. We do have a special Valentine's Day case for today. And we're also back to our murder mysteries with a masterpiece. And today's masterpiece is going to be lovebirds. It doesn't necessarily relate to the case, but it does go with the theme of Valentine's Day. So our case today is about a young grad student murdered in Plainsville, Connecticut on Valentine's Day of 2009. Let's discuss. Tiana Notice was born on February 4th, 1984, making her an Aquarius. And it is still Aquarius season, so it's her birthday month, birthday season, what have you. In 2009, she had just turned 25 and was working on her master's degree. She already had her bachelor's degree in political science from the University of Hartford. Her mother said she loved to debate and that she often encouraged her to become a lawyer. Backtracking a couple years, 2007, Tiana met James Carter II on MySpace. Now, Tiana wasn't really looking for a relationship. She had just gotten out of a long-term relationship with her ex-boyfriend, Robert. They had been together for 5 years and had broken up, and she was not really ready just to jump back into something new. But her and James got to talking. They liked each other, and she decided to at least go on a date. What was it gonna hurt? So they got on this date. It's a first date, so they're really still into getting to know each other. And James tells Tiana that he's a homeowner, he's a manager at a finance company. He also does not have any children, but he definitely wants some one day. And that's not it. He also buys Tiana a brand new cell phone, and he buys her new tires for her car, which y'all know how much of a flex that is because tires are expensive. So after all of that, Tiana was impressed and she was like, all right, we can date. And they start dating. But everything wouldn't be good for long because James's web of lies would soon begin to unravel. About 6 months into their relationship, James is sentenced to 5 months in jail for a domestic violence charge that he got from his ex-girlfriend. And if that's not enough, Tiana finds out not only about this charge, but he has many violent charges on his record. A little over a year later, and the relationship was in shambles. Tiana suspected James of cheating, and she was ready to end the relationship. By January of 2009, James had filed a restraining order against Tiana. He filed this order with the Plainsville Police Department, which is the city where both of them lived. Now, James didn't have any injuries or any real reason for filing the restraining order, but police filed the report anyway. A few days later, Tiana filed her own restraining order against James. And with this order, James was banned from speaking to Tiana for 2 weeks. Shortly after Tiana filed her restraining order, she started getting emails from a woman that claimed to be James' ex named Jessica Banderas. The emails were threatening in nature and came to her back to back for about 2 days and then just suddenly stopped. On January 13th, Tiana went back to the police to let them know about the threatening and harassing emails and to tell them that she thought the emails were actually from James and not this mysterious ex-girlfriend. But without any proof that it was actually James sending the emails, the police said there wasn't much that they could do. In the following days, James filed another restraining order against Tiana. And with this filing of the restraining order, they were both ordered to appear in court to give their sides of the story. This time, Tiana came with proof. She came with the receipts that proved and showed the harassment and showed all of the emails, the text messages, anything that she had to prove that he was continually contacting her. And with this, both of them were granted 6-month restraining orders against each other. On January 31st, James went to the police with a flyer that he claimed had been sent to his house by Tiana. This flyer had her name, a picture of her face, and also her phone number printed on it. Now, the police found this to be suspicious because with a restraining order filed against him, why would Tiana send all of her information directly to his house? It didn't make sense, but it was a claim that was filed, so the police did investigate it. And Tiana said that she did not send that flyer to James. By February, Tiana had moved on, rekindling the relationship with her ex-boyfriend, Robert. And family and friends said that she let James know that this was going on. She also let him know that her and Robert planned to get married. And this, the family says, is when the harassment became even worse. On February 7th, Tiana woke up to all 4 of her tires being slashed. She knew it was James, but without proof, nothing could be done again. So she turned to her father, who decided that putting a security camera up in her apartment would be the best idea. This way it would give her added safety, but also it would give them proof of James coming to her house and harassing her. It would give them something to take to the police. The day before Valentine's Day, Tiana was working when James began to call over and over and over. But being that he called her at work, she had proof in the form of her coworkers and decided to call the police to report this. Because now this was actually some proof and the police would be able to do something about him violating his restraining order. But when she called the police in Plainsville, they told her that she would need to call the police department in Waterbury because that's where her job was located. So that's where the crime technically took place. So when Tiana was done with work for the day, she actually went down to the Waterbury Police Department to report the harassment that James had inflicted on her that day. But while speaking with the officers at the Waterbury Police Department, they didn't believe that she even had a restraining order out on James. And before they would do anything for her, they wanted her to contact the Plainsville Police Department and have them fax over the restraining order as proof. That wasn't something that Tiana was able to do that day, so she went home with plans to have the fax sent over the following day. By the time she made it home around 7:20 p.m., there was a note from James waiting for her at the door. It read, "Tiana, forgive me. I never cheated on you. If I'm lying, may God take my life. Forgive me for everything else I have done." She went to the security camera to see if it caught James leaving the note, but unfortunately, the tape had run out, so she still didn't have any proof. The next morning, Valentine's Day, Tiana went down to the Plainsville Police Department as planned to have them fax over a copy of their restraining order to Waterbury so that she could have proof that James was harassing her at work. But when she got there, the police were like, "You know what? We will do you one better. We'll just go ahead and arrest James for you." And so, of course, Tiana was like, okay, great, because that's all I've been wanting this whole time is for y'all to go ahead and arrest him. You know, I've been asking, begging y'all for help, and then you're finally giving me the help. Thank you very much. Please go and arrest him now. So, of course, with that news, Tiana is excited. You know, she's finally going to get what she needed. James is going to be arrested. Great. So Tiana leaves the police department. And though the police told her, "Hey, we're going to go ahead and arrest James for you," instead, they call James. They call him. They say, "Hey, Tiana was down here and she told us that you've been violating your restraining order. Now, if you do it again, you know we're going to have to arrest you. Oh, and by the way, would you mind coming down here to give us a handwriting sample that we can compare to the note that she says you left at her house last night?" They called the man that she had a restraining order against, that she was trying to file a complaint against in order to have him arrested. They call him and tell him, "Hey, your girlfriend is down here, your ex-girlfriend is down here snitching." That's what they do. After telling her, "We're just going to arrest him for you." I know what you're thinking. Well, since they decided not to arrest James, they at least called Tiana back and told her, like, "Hey, we're not going to arrest him. We just called him, gave him a heads up, blah, blah, blah. So you might want to, not feel too content in the fact that we said we're going to arrest him because now we're not." But no, they didn't do that. They didn't give her any kind of heads up. So Tiana went home with her false sense of security given to her by the police. She had already decided that she was going to stay at her mom's house for the weekend, you know, just to be on the safe side, because at this point James had been to her house a couple times while she wasn't home, and it just didn't seem, you know, like the safest option to be at home alone. But now, feeling safe from dealing with the police, she thought, you know, she could at least go home and get a bag, you know, get the things that she would need for the weekend before going down to her mom's house. I mean, because why not? James is currently being arrested, you know, nothing to worry about. He's on his way to jail. She just thought, I'm going to go home, get my clothes, and head to my mom's house for a nice family weekend. At 9:41 p.m., Tiana calls 911. She screams into the phone, I'm bleeding to death. My ex-boyfriend stabbed me to death. Her screams were heard by a neighbor who also says they saw James' car leaving the parking lot. James had been waiting outside of Tiana's apartment complex after getting that call from the police. And just as Tiana made it to her door to go inside, James jumps out and attacks her, stabbing her at least 20 times. 2 of those stabs directly to the heart. James, of course, flees the scene, and somehow Tiana is able to call for 911. Neighbors come to her aid and are trying to keep her calm and breathing as they wait for the paramedics. She's rushed to the hospital, and they try the best they can to save her life, but she ends up passing from too much blood loss. As James flees the scene, he stopped by his brother's home to tell him about everything that had happened. So he goes to his brother's house and confesses, and then continues to try to evade police. But less than an hour after Tiana passes away, James is apprehended and arrested on suspicion of murder. James' trial begins in October of 2011, and the evidence against him was overwhelming. Not only did Tiana name him as her attacker in her 911 call, but the security camera that Tiana's father had installed at her house captured James on it the night of the attack. It also captured her screams and part of her 911 call on its audio. James' brother and his brother's girlfriend both testified during the trial to the confession that James made to them on the night of the attack. James was found guilty and sentenced to 60 years in prison. And this is the maximum amount of time that he could receive in the state of Connecticut. Tiana had filed 33 complaints in the 6 weeks before her murder. 33 complaints. And no action was taken by either the Waterbury Police Department nor the Plainsville Police Department. Tiana's family said that James harassed her with phone calls, text messages, and emails. They also state that he stalked her. They allege that he would sit outside her house in his car and also follow her to work and when she was shopping. Both police departments, Waterbury and Plainsville, were found negligent, and Tiana's family was awarded $10 million in a settlement. Her family has also started the Tiana Angelique Notice Foundation in order to create more strict laws around domestic violence and domestic violence related murders. They are also working on a GPS system for abusers that have been issued restraining orders against their victims. Tiana's father feels like if some kind of GPS system had been in place, like the ankle monitors that house arrest inmates have to wear, then it would have been known that James was around Tiana's house and that this incident could have been prevented. Tiana was failed by so many people. The 2 police departments didn't do enough. She did everything that they say you're supposed to do. She reached out to the police. She took the issue through the courts with restraining orders. Anytime there was an issue, she called the police to file a report. And time after time, they failed her. It's heartbreaking to know that she went home on that day feeling safe to do so because they told her that they were going to arrest him. Just for her to not even make it into her front door before being taken out by a monster. I am glad that her family was able to receive a settlement. It's bittersweet because, yeah, the family has $10 million, but they had to lose their child in order to get it. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes with me today. Please like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. Comment down below and talk shit if you got to. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope your day is filled with love and light. I love you. Be great. Be you. I'll see you soon.